Now, folks, it's been an historic 24 hours in our nation's capital as I'm trying to argue the large Obama GOP tax cut deal is now law, and the Tea Party showed its power taking down the Democrats' massive $1.2 trillion spending bill. All right, joining us now to talk about it, we have Wyoming Republican Senator John Barrasso, a member of the GOP leadership. Dr. Barrasso, it is a great pleasure to see you again. I want to ask you, I'm going to get to my vision of Reaganomics 2.0, but what's so interesting to me is, even in this lame duck session, before the new members can move in, most of them in both houses, has the Tea Party exerted its influence by stopping this monstrosity of a $1.2 trillion spending bill? Was the Tea Party behind that?
Well, it was all of America on Election Day, November 2nd. People all around the country sent a strong message to Washington. And Larry, Washington didn't seem to hear it until last night. But last night you had 42 Republican senators, fiscally conservative, saying this is wrong. We need to stop this spending. And that bill went away. That 1,924 pages with over 6,000 earmarks, $1.1 trillion. We're going to do a very short-term continuing resolution just till the new Congress is sworn in. But, you know, for me, Tea Party stands for taxed enough already. And the American people have been paying too much in taxes for too long. I think we've done some good things with this new tax law that the president signed today, and it was done in a bipartisan way. So I think it was a double victory, a victory to keep taxes from going up as well as cutting the spending.
Senator, all right, we're going to stop and have you come back in a second, but I just want to ask you this. Kim Strassel, one of my favorites, wrote in the Wall Street Journal today. She asks if the Republican Party is off the, quote, spending dope. I want to ask you, Senator, after the triumph of last night, and you blew my socks off, it was great stuff, all right? After that, can you tell us that the Republican Party is off the spending drug?
I got to believe absolutely. And we are very excited about the 13 new Republican senators who are joining us. We've been visiting with them, meeting with them. I think it's going to be incredible come January, where the Republicans take over the House, committed to getting down the spending. The Republicans in the Senate, we have in the Republican Senate side now a solid core of fiscal conservatives, which means that over 41 to be able to prevent bad things from happening.
Senator Barrasso, stay with me. We're going to take a very, very brief commercial break because we are a profit-maximizing network. When we come back, I'm going to ask Mr. Barrasso, what will the Republicans cut in the new session of Congress? That's right, not just stopping spending, but what will they cut and how much? Senator John Barrasso coming right back after this brief break. All right, we're back with Wyoming Republican Senator John Barrasso, one of the members of the Senate Leadership Committee on the GOP side. By the way, Senator, I cannot thank you enough for staying on a Friday evening. You're extremely kind. Let me go back to this other issue now. You're going to get this new continuing resolution, which will presumably fund the government until, what, early February, mid-February. Yes. Senator, can you say to folks what everyone's asking, can the Republicans actually lower spending, cut spending? You miraculously stopped a big spending hike last night. That was a historic moment. I'm calling it Reaganomics 2.0. Can you actually put a number on your own target for lower spending?
Well, we want to get back to 2008 spending levels, Larry. And last night I was watching your show. You had John McCain on, who was all fired up about the earmarks before we were able to take down and defeat that large spending omnibus bill. And Senator McCain talked about earmarks. I will tell you, they are a gateway drug. And you mentioned the Wall Street Journal article today. The Republicans in the House and Senate have both voted for a 2-year moratorium on earmarks. I mean, you know how it works. People get their earmark in a bill and then they vote for it, which includes somebody else's earmark. And the next thing you see this spending really getting out of control. So I think that moratorium is going to be very important, and a commitment to get back down to 2008 spending levels. And now with a Republican-controlled House, as well as over 40 true fiscal conservatives in the Senate, I think you're going to see it happen.
Just a couple more on this key point. If you go back to the 2008 baseline as a reference point, you could be talking over the next 5 years of several $100 billion of spending reductions. Is that a fair number? Is that the Republican target?
Well, I think that's a fair number. You know, the Erskine Bowles, Al Simpson Debt Commission has come out. We discussed that among the senators today at lunch with both Mike Crapo and Tom Coburn, who were members of that commission, who took it very seriously. They both voted in favor of the recommendations. They had more than a majority vote in favor of it, but they didn't get the total large number that they needed. Realistically, Larry, we have to get the spending under control. The debt is the threat. When we borrow 41 cents out of every dollar that we spend, and we're borrowing it, much of it from overseas, that's not sustainable. It's irresponsible, it's unsustainable, and I know there are Americans that are worried it's irreversible. So I was so happy that last night the spending bill went down and keeping taxes down did pass.
In that horrible spending bill was $1 billion to ramp up the implementation of Obamacare. Obamacare, according to polls, is still incredibly unpopular. It's in trouble in some of the courts in Virginia and Florida, as you well know, because you've been a campaigner on this issue. But can you keep that $1 billion out of the next spending resolution, the $1 billion being used to begin the financing of Obamacare?
That's the goal. You know, we want to repeal and replace this terrible health care law. 60% of Americans want it repealed at this point. And that's what the House is going to do. I believe when they come into session in January, vote to repeal this. I'm delighted with what Virginia ruled, but we are going to try to tear this apart limb from limb any way we can, starve it financially. We want to be able to get the individual mandates gone, the employee mandate, the employer mandates gone, these draconian impacts on business with all of the additional reporting, all of these things that I think are job killers. So we have to get rid of this health care law, which I believe is hurting our economy, Larry.
And one last one, Senator. You've got some what I call cranky conservatives who opposed the tax cut compromise. Among them, columnist Charles Krauthammer, Governor Mitt Romney, a sure shot to run for president, Governor Sarah Palin, former Governor Sarah Palin, you know, a pretty good shot to run for president. They bellyached that there was too much spending in the bill, and they were willing to let tax rates go up. Now, I want to know, how do you respond to that? Is the Republican Party going to take a root canal turn and attempt to have deficit reduction with higher tax rates and lower growth? Is that possible? Wouldn't that play right into President Obama's hands?
Well, I looked at this, as all of the members did, and said, what's the best for the country? And I thought keeping tax rates down for everyone was the right way to go. I think the issue on the estate taxes, I would have liked to make the Bush tax cuts permanent. I would have loved for the death tax to go away completely. I think people shouldn't have to pay taxes on the same money they earn twice. So putting the ceiling up to $5 million on estates and only 35% is the right step in the right direction. And I think anytime we get a chance to cut taxes, we should do that. And for people to think that raising taxes raises revenue, I don't buy into that. I think it just suppresses business, and it does not help the economy.
I think that's the key point, Seth. You put your finger on it. I think that's just root canal economics. And my hope is, I mean, what do you say to Mitt Romney? What are you going to say to him? What do you say to Sarah Palin? They really missed the boat on this. What you just said, higher taxes won't solve the deficit. It's going to make the deficit worse.
Well, everybody gets to decide and stand up, but when your name is called in the floor of the United States Senate, when you look at a bill like this, you either vote yes or vote no. And in every bill, there's some things that you know are very, very good and some things that you don't like as much. And I would have rather eliminated death taxes permanently, as well as made the Bush tax cuts permanent. And I would have rather had a pay for the unemployment extension. So those are things that I don't think were good. But the idea of not raising taxes on anyone in economic times like these, Larry, I think was very, very important and the right vote, and that's why I voted for it.
All right, Senator John Barrasso, thank you very much, sir, again, for giving us your time on a Friday evening. I hope you have a happy, holy, great holiday season. Thanks
I'm going
again.
back to the Senate floor to debate the START treaty.
Okay, good luck on START.